Hello everybody and welcome to Motor Racing in 2025. We kick off the new year with the first of a slew of top quality international endurance races in the next 4 weeks that we'll be covering as part of the Radio Show Limited network of channels, and we kick off as tradition dictates here at the Dubai Autodrome. It's good to have your company for the Michelin 24 Hours of Dubai. 2 rounds of the Michelin Middle East Cup this year here at Dubai, and then next weekend at Yas Marina Circuit for the titchy, tiny 6-hour sprint race, effectively. Already more than 50 cars entered for that race. We are over 60, that's 6-0 for this series. This weekend, this event this weekend, of which more than half are in GT3. We've brought the team back together again and brought them here to the UAE and to the Dubai Autodrome, which looks an absolute picture at the moment. The voices you will hear throughout the day include, of course, fabulous Phil Anson, who we've just worked out we've known each other for 14 years now, and we're still talking to each other, which is pretty good going, to be honest. Johnny Palmer has made the trip. He wasn't allowed to come back after 2020 when this race was flooded out, but we've assured the authorities that he hasn't been doing a rain dance, although there is cricket going on at DSC next door, so anything could happen. In the pit lane, Joe Bradley and Nick Damon, we'll get to them in a moment. And a first-timer here with us in the booth is our PMAC, Peter Mackay, the man from Perth in Scotland, is, I think, just about coming to terms with the scale of Dubai in the UAE. Good afternoon, as it is to you, and welcome to the Michelin Dubai 24 Hours.
Good afternoon, John. Thank you. I don't think I'll have fully processed what I think of Dubai until I get home in a few days' time. It's an amazing city, amazing place, amazing facility here at the Dubai Autodrome, and a huge packed field of cars, many teams that know the race well, many drivers that know it well, but a brand new tyre, which I'm sure we're going to talk a lot about, with the Michelin tyre for the first time here in the 24H series, and really interesting to get the feedback from the drivers, what they think.
Well, I mentioned Joe Bradley and Nick Damon. It wouldn't be a Dubai 24 Hours without Nick down in the pit lane. He has been here a few times, but he's standing next to a car that is here for the very first time, and it brings the glorious screaming sound of a Judd V10 back. The 5-litre machine is next to Nick Damon, and doesn't it look a picture? And so does the car.
Well, exactly. It looks fantastic. It's always marvellous to be back in Dubai for this January race, the 20th running of the Dubai 24 Hours. My 12th visit here in 13 years, but we missed a couple, of course. And you can see the Rosberg LMGT is the car on camera now, the white and the blue car, giving me very strong Maserati vibes, which is always a good thing. This first section of qualifying, it's a mixture of these GTX cars, which are the second fastest, or probably the second fastest group of cars, the GT4 cars and the TCX cars. So there's kind of quite a big speed difference between the three, so hopefully they'll keep out of each other's way. As per Creventic rules, there'll be 3 sections to this qualifying, a different driver each time. But of course they will have to run on the same tyres and the same fuel. Now, talking about tyres, that's the big change for the Creventic series. We are now the Michelin series by Creventic. They've switched to Michelin, Joe.
Well, everyone knows how excited I get about tyres, and this brand new brand of tyre for the 24H series, the Michelin Pilot Sport. It's offering new challenges up and down the pit lane. Doesn't matter what class you're in. Getting these Michelins to work on cars that you are familiar with is where the teams are finding the challenge. Not just the drivers, I've got to say, but the engineers as well. And just talking to a few people up and down the pit lane, those challenges, not necessarily getting to qualify well, but last the stint is key to a good race.
Yeah, I mean, it really is a major change. You know, we've had the first time we came here, it was Dunlop, then Sandkirk, but now they've made a move which, it has to be said, it seems to be universally popular amongst the paddock and has inspired this entry. And also, interestingly, we talk about this, but the entry for next week's Abu Dhabi race, people are happy with this Michelin, even though, you say, presents challenge, especially with its much stiffer sidewall.
Yeah, I think when you look at the overall picture of GT sports car racing across the world, the Michelin tyre is a very commonly used tyres, and I think the teams like that. I think they can then cross-fertilise between series in other countries, and I think it's popularised, if that's the word to use, the Creventic series. And I think we're probably going to see a very strong year for the 24 series. We're already back to the numbers pre-COVID, I think. A very, very strong entry area this weekend, and it's a very strong, I think, 33 cars in the GT3 field. That's going to bring us fabulous racing all week.
Well, the next 45 minutes or so is all about GTX, TCR and the GT4s. And with the first 15-minute section well underway, back to the team.
Nick Damon, Joe Bradley in the pit lane. That tyre is a smart tyre, which possibly we can't say about our pit lane team all the time. I'm only kidding, gentlemen. Good to have you back with us and on site. The tyres are all equipped with RFID chips, which came from commercial vehicle tyres, actually, which means we've got the opportunity to have even more data from the provided to us from the tyre manufacturer and supplier this weekend and throughout the Michelin 24-inch series in 2025, which following this season opener here at Dubai, heads to Abu Dhabi next weekend for that sprint 6 hours, and then into the 5-race European Series, finishing at Barcelona in September. More details about that as we go on. Already lots of questions coming in. Hello to Paul Ayling. If you're on the Twitter, or the X as it's called now, if you've managed to stay on that, we'll be keeping an eye on that throughout this, and it is at RSL_studio, at RSL_studio. Hello to Paul, looking forward to the action and the commentary, he says. Already questions about the tyres coming in, and yes, they are Michelin, but what Michelins are there? Well, that's a good point. They are designated H1 and H2, those are the compounds, and these are tyres that will not be unfamiliar, let me put it that way, to any teams that have been running in IMSA in the last few years. The S8M and the S9M are the customer racing tyres that have been used there. The early chat from the teams that I've spoken to is that they seem to be giving good performance, as you'd expect, and great longevity, which possibly almost also might expect as well from a Michelin tyre. It is effectively a new start though, Peter, because all the data from the previous manufacturer, people say, well, it's just a tyre, how much difference can it make? It can make a lot of difference, caster and camber. Now, Michelin helped the teams by putting out a specification for caster, camber and pressures, which you have to stay within those parameters, but even so, that's only part of how the car suspension reacts, is the sidewall and the tyre itself. So there will be and the big car's on track here since Monday of this week. There will have been some data. We had a 2-day tyre testing in December as well. It was Winward who were quickest then with the AMG. But there will be a certain amount of learning going on even right now.
And the choice of car is very important, because you look at like a team like El Bamber Motorsport, they've run Porsches in the past, they've run Mercedes AMG, they've got an Aston Martin Vantage this weekend, so it can be the platform that you're working with as well can make a difference, and yeah, it's just getting used to it. But the one thing for sure is there has been plentiful track time for the teams to get up to speed and get used to the tyre and get everything working well. One thing that's just caught my attention in this qualifying session is the 797 Graf Racing Rossa LM GT, because they have put their pro-graded driver, one of their pro-graded drivers in there, Nikita Mazepin, former Formula 1 driver. Now, by my understanding, you've got to put the AM driver in for the first session of qualifying. But by my reading of the regulations, that hasn't changed, and I don't think there's any exception for GTX. I'm really reassured by Phil Anson shaking his head in the background. But so let's see. The race control, I'm sure, will be on top of that one if necessary.
That's Peter Mackay with me in what is one of our most impressive commentary box in terms of the vista that we have. We're way up in the top of the grandstand on driver's left, down the front straight, just beyond the Michelin 24 Hours of Dubai start-finish gantry. So we can see almost down to turn 1. Then we pick them up against the turn 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Down the back straight into turn 10. And at the far side of the circuit, that's Nikita Mazepin driven 797. This is the Rossa car. Has gone around. This is the mighty 5-litre Judd V10. And sponsored by Spark, the die-cast model, and then he rejoined in right alongside the 111 IRC Darren Curry driven car. That was just the back end giving away there, and that looked to be a pretty quick snap there for Nikita. Just on the entrance to the S's at turn 4. So actually just about where we could see them out of the window, which is where I was looking at the time that happened. Nikita's half-brother is making big waves in the world of karting, and he will, I am reliably told that he will be in single-seater racing. I think he's only 10 or 11 at the moment, but his career is already being mapped out for him under the watchful eye of Ollie Oakes, who of course runs the high-tech team, the former Mazepin team, and also is team manager, team principal at Alpine F1. Strongly rumoured to be taking over that team as Renault divest themselves of the F1. So keep an eye open for a next generation, or at least another version of the Mazepin dynasty.
A very good time though before that spin from Nikita Mazepin, 201.767, a full 1.6 seconds quicker than Gerhard Watzinger in the Lippert Motorsport Lamborghini GTX. Well, meanwhile, the
427, that's the SRS team Zog Rennsport Porsche. That's Gero Birknecht. And that car's come to a halt on the long back straight. This is your first time with us for the Michelin 24 Hours of Dubai. First of all, hang your head if you're an endurance sports car racer, racing fan, and because this is the 20th running of this august event. Originally, well, I mean, I think we missed the first half dozen, but we've been here, we just worked out we've been here since 2012. And the names of the winners here go back all the way to Dula Motorsport in 2006.
Yeah.
Hubert Bach Motorsport was second, and AC Bratislava, who continued to compete in the championship with Miro Konopka, particularly down through the years. And Dula Motorsport's BMW E46 GTR, what a machine that was. Dieter Quester, who was part of the winning team on the first two runnings of this event in 06 and 07, with a mostly Austrian team, Dieter Quester and Philip Peter. Yes, that Philip Peter, who went on to run Sports Car Series, and Toto Wolff. Yes, that Toto Wolff, running with Red Bull backing, because Toto was an early investor in Red Bull as the red flags come out. And you can't have Dieter Quester without Hans Joachim Stuck. Hans Stuck was in that car as well and took the first podium. The first year we were here, we managed to have Bernd Schneider on 2 steps of the podium for Heiko Motorsport, second and third. So that was 2012 when Khaled Al-Kabazi's Team Abu Dhabi by Black Falcon car won, with Thomas Jäger, the German, Jeroen Blekemolen from the Netherlands, and the much missed and mourned Sean Edwards was the another driver in that car. Rich history here. So we have got a red flag, which we normally don't do in Creventic racing, because we deal with things with what's called a code 60. Plenty of other high-profile series have come up with a similar idea and sort of copied along, because they saw how well it worked in this series. Call it a virtual safety car, if you will. Code 60, purple flag with a 60 in the middle and across. Guess what? 60 kilometres an hour. Yeah, absolutely. So you hold your position. But we've red flagged this one, and just to see if we've stopped the clock. Yes, we have, with 5 minutes and 31 seconds to go. So with a fast lap at the moment, just over 2 minutes, you will get an outlap flyer and possibly a second lap. And when we go back green.
And that's something that will probably be a little bit of a voyage of discovery for us in what the heat-up process is of the Michelin tyre, how the teams are going to get on top of that one, and when the performance of the tyre will come in. I mean, Nikita Mazepin, he's certainly done his job in terms of extracting the maximum, or extracting the best lap time of that session, but by my understanding, it's not within the rules to put your pro driver in the first session. It's the AM driver who must go in that session. So it's a little bit skewed there, because Gerhard Wotzinger, for example, for Lippert Motorsport, in their Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo, he will, right. He is an AM driver.
Nick Damon can give us some news, because I don't think it's Mazepin in the car. Nick, what can you tell us?
No, it is Mazepin in the car. What I was saying is that Nico Prost is in the car for Ginetta as well. So obviously, unless everyone's making the same mistake, the rules must be different. Well,
we'll wait to hear from race control about that. Creventic have a very good app with all the data on, and they send out the updates on that. You watching and potentially listening to the 24-hour series. Early issue for the brand new Rosa, this Rosa LM. There is a road car version of this as well, as of course there has to be for a GT3 machine, and there is a mandated number of cars that have to be completed and sold on the road series. Production cars is the overarching term. However, this is running in a GTX, which is X, you could say, was experimental. You could just say exceptional. It's basically for cars that don't quite fit places. We've seen new versions of cars running this in the past, with BMWs before they were homologated in the past, Peter. And it's basically a catch-all, but what we're looking at here is cars that, roughly speaking, for example, the Lamborghini is a Super Trofeo car. It's not a GT3 car. That sort of thing. The IRC car, that's a tube frame, a space frame car with a General Motors LS3 6.2 engine on. If you think of the Mark cars that we've seen down through the years, it's a similar concept to that, although not from the same company. It basically gives people the opportunity to come and have a race.
That's right, and you could take a GT2 car, for example. There's lots of them out there from Mercedes, from Audi. There's even one or two Brabham BT62s out there too. The Rosa car, the LMGT, they've built two chassis. They've built 001 and 002, so they're off and running. They were both completed in mid-November.
I want to go to Nick in a moment, but from here I can see, Nick, that Rosa car is getting tyres taken off that car. That's not allowed in the session either. So at the moment we've got two straight against the new team. Where are you?
I just thought I know those of you who were lucky enough to listen to me at Motorsport, I know we had a long conversation about the 111 racing car and what was it, where it came from. It's the Australian IRC GT machine, and absolutely it does look very much like a new version of that Mark Carr's tubular space frame chassis. It does seem quite a bit longer, so I think they've actually, it's got a kind of semi-bespoke paintwork as it goes, the bodywork is about to get going. Big Australian flag on the roof, but yeah, it's got a kind of a Camaro look about it, hasn't it, really? But it's not, obviously, because it's a silhouette machine. But yeah, another moving forward on that one. Yeah, I must admit that is a bit surprising they've changed the tyres, because that's not allowed. All they have to do now is fuel it to get the whole set, don't they, really?
I'll put the same driver out twice.
Again,
yeah.
Well, that's it, because also Nico now, hang on, the driver about to get in is Roman Rusinov. So if he goes out in the second part of the session, that's also wrong as well. So it's going well so far, really.
As long as the only rule is you've got to put an AM in at the start, but after that you can put who you like it. Yeah. That's my understanding.
No, but he can't go out in this session
in the first session.
When Mazepin's already been out.
Exactly so.
But it's, I think they're waiting a few minutes. I think a lot of people have written off this, perhaps writing off this 5-minute session. Do we know who caused the red flag?
Yes, it was the Porsche coming to a halt at the back straight, the SRFS team Rennsport.
Was it a 427?
No.
Because that's just rolled past me. The 427's running, but it has just turned up.
It was pulled into the start of the pit lane on a tow rope, and then I think it fired from there. So maybe a control alt delete.
It's a control alt delete thing. Let's have a look. They are looking at they've lifted up the bonnet, which is pointless, of course, because there's nothing in the bonnet.
You mean the front?
For a Cayman. And as we know, they actually haven't got any engines. We've looked for the engine on a Boxer and a Cayman many times and can't find it.
Virtual engine.
So they looks like they've got they're tracing down some loose connections. Obviously, I think it must have turned itself off, and then, as you say, was dropped off the truck and went, yeah, it's fine now. And I think the underway. A lot of people aren't bothering with this second 5 minutes, to be honest. They're just using it as extra preparation time. I can see the Ginetta of Nico Prossi's out of the car. Obviously, Mazepin, we know, has got out of the car. I wonder whether they put a new tyre on or whether they've just taken them off and put them back on again, both of which is probably not allowed. Now, it's a brand new tyre on the rear right.
Now, did he puncture them?
Unless they're going to claim force majeure, because you flat when he spun it, that's not any good. So the question is, are they going to end up being, if they have breached regulations, will they be put back to the back of the grid or just the back of the class?
I think they will be put to the back of the GTs.
Right.
So behind the GT4s, I think.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is that this GTX, looking at we've seen some times in practice, this Rossa Corsa machine, it's a good couple of seconds a lap faster than the rest of the GTX field. So it's really racing itself and it's racing reliability, which is no mean feat when you're a brand new car trying to do 24 hours.
Indeed, so.
It's the ultimate test, isn't it? To be able to get the car to do long running, and of course there's the heat as well, the abrasiveness of the circuit, but it's getting more bumpy as well, the facility here at Dubai. So yeah, a great way to put the car through its paces, and there's some great shots on social media of the car being tested on the road in the snow as well. So it can go on snow with the right tyres on it too. So very, very, very cool thing. But at the moment, Gerhard Votzinger out on track in the Lippert Motorsport Lamborghini Super Trofeo car. So this is a car that's usually used for one-make racing. Ferrari, they have one called Ferrari Challenge as well. One of those cars would be fitted into GTX as well. But the Lippert team have brought their Huracan Super Trofeo for several events here in the 24H series. And they will definitely be a threat in that class. And of course, going up against one of the real fan favourites, the Vortex, which really had the dream season last year. They won the GTX Championship, they won at Spa, they won at Portimao, they won at Misano, and of course the big one, the end of the season, the European season at least, the Barcelona 24 Hours. So the Vortex, particularly with their new 2.0 chassis, are in a very strong place after their 2024 season.
So coming down to the end of this first 15-minute session, which is now just 46 seconds away from being completed, and the 111 IRC car has gone to fueling, which is now again. If I apologise for all of those of you who've been watching and listening to this form of racing for a long time, there's no fueling in the pit lane. And that is great because it means that people don't have to wear fire suits in the pit lane, particularly in this race. It's great. And one of the great joys of being at this race, for me at least, is getting back down into the pit lane in the overnight hours in a polo shirt and being able to have a wander around when it's 14, 15, 16 degrees. It's absolutely lovely.
Although you had the shorts on at Mugello when it was about 3.4 degrees.
Yeah.
You looked cold that day.
Yeah, and then at Misano, it was so hot I melted the soles of my feet. It was, the track temperature was 57 Celsius at one stage in that race. So we had a bit of everything last year. Fueling then is done entirely remotely in terms of position. It's a pit out, and the Creventic organisation ship their fuel rigs, their fuel pumps, which resemble what you would go to your local petrol station to use. And indeed, they are a pistol grip and they're normal looking petrol pump. But Peter, they are the cleverest. We talked about smart tyres with RFID chips earlier on. We have got the cleverest petrol pumps in the world at the end of the pit lane here.
They are smart pumps. And you think, what is that? It's not like the smart gnome from Wallace and Gromit. It's a bit more smarter than I'm still a Gromit fan. So yeah, what they do is that because there's various different classes all the way through the field, there's different rules over how much fuel you can put in, the tank size, etc. And then when we go into a code 60, there's a limitation of 25% of what you can fill in for most of the cars. Yeah. So the smart pump knows when the team scan their card, look a little bit like you scan your loyalty card at the petrol pump. It knows what car it is and what the rules are, and you just pull the pistol grip and off you go.
And indeed, if code 60 is thrown while you are fueling, the pump is clever enough as the checkered flag is shown on the start-finish line down to our right. The smart pump gets a signal from race control, and it knows then that you can't have any more than 25% of your fuel fill.
From that point on. So there will still be, well, this is a good point. Will there be teams that see an incident out on track and think there is going to be a code 60, but is there enough time to come into the pits, change tyres, and then get into fueling before the code 60?
Depends where you are on the track.
It does. If you're right at the pit end,
it might be worth a punt if you're already in the fuel window. Checkered flag is out. The times for the moment are absolute in terms of course, they will be averaged out, but the times that have been set by all of the 13 drivers, we haven't seen the SRS Team Zorg Rennsport Porsche Cayman GT4 Club Sport, the 981 car, one of the older cars in the field and running in TCX. Livetiming.getraceresults.com if you want to follow along with us. Joe Bradley has snatched the mic away from Nick Damon and has a Michelin tyre update.
Well, it's all about the Michelin tyre on the 797, which we saw be changed. I've made some inquiries. That is, of course, allowed if the tyre has been flat-spotted. I've got the man who flat-spotted the tyre, though, Nikita Mazepin. Nikita, that car just looked like it went on you there.
Yeah, obviously it gets hotter on track, so the hotter it is, the less grip we have, and you know, I'm quite excited to be here. I want to try and be as quick as I can. The car is very new. I'm very new for the car, so sometimes things like that happen. Thankfully, it's just a tyre.
Well, for us, it just shows how seriously you guys are taking it. You were really pushing out there. We are also very interested in this car. It's, you know, it looks very at home in the GT3 class, for instance.
For sure. I think our goal as a team is to get to GT3. Don't put your hopes up for us too much. The car is only running its 4th day on track, so we're very new, and to be honest, what you see today is an idea that a group of us had 2 years ago, and now you see a complete new car which never existed before. So it's great that it's running. It's running very fast, especially on straights, surprisingly, even for us. But it's a long way to come for sure.
Are you guys treating this as a development 24-hour race? Or are you kind of looking towards that checkered flag and doing as best you can?
Well, we don't turn up at the track not trying to win, that's for sure. So let's put it like this. I expect ours to be on a podium if we make it through the night, but we never know.
That goes for anything, Nikita, doesn't it? Even a car that's been run for 5 years, that's still the same with the 24 hours. I've got to say, it's great to have you guys here. Best of luck, and it's great to have this car. Brilliant. Nikita Mazepin, currently the fastest car in GTX so far.
Yeah, we'll see if that holds, as Peter was saying about the AM driver needing to be taking the first 15 minutes. So now you've seen what happens. My apologies. I skimmed over the bit about changing a damaged tyre, but they would have had to get permission to do that on the right rear. So that won't disqualify that 201.767 from the Graf Racing Rossa. We're waiting for that car to go out. We did see the team Zorg Rennsport SRS Porsche, the 127 car, and the Razin Northern Racing Porsche team manager and their number one driver ID, have been asked to go to race control at the end of qualifying session. So I didn't really see them in an incident, but they've done something to attract the attention of race control, which is directly opposite the track from where we are. So another 15 minutes has been set on the clock. We're already down to 13 minutes 50, 49, 48, and the tyres that were on at the start have to stay on. The fuel level that was in the car at the start can't be topped up, so that's 111 Racing IRC car now in the hands of Grant Donaldson, the IRC. with another glory. I mean, we're going to be spoilt for choice this weekend in terms of sounds of the track, Peter. We've got that V10 5-litre Judd. We've got the LS3 V8. That's just in this class. And we've got a V8 Ginetta, of course, as well, later to come. And we've got a variety of V6s, V8s, flat 6s throughout the field, and some 4-cylinder cars as well. And they are, it's going to be great, because when we were watching practice earlier on this morning, you can actually tell them as they go past. It's very loud up here, by the way, isn't it?
You get a big echo where we are, just at the top of the grandstand opposite the pit lane. We've got a fantastic view over the whole facility and the ever-expanding metropolis that is Dubai. If you've never been here before, you just will be in awe when you do get here. Yep. It's an amazing place, and this is a fantastic facility. But yeah, you close your eyes, you listen to that 5.2 V10, you go, well, it's either an Audi or Lamborghini, because they've got the same engine more or less. So you always can tell them apart. My favourite, though, if I can be allowed a favourite, is the thumping 6.2 V8 in the AMG Mercedes. And you think that power plant, in terms of a return on investment from development, the engine in that, and indeed the engine in that Audi and Lamborghini, is certainly very well spent. That's for sure. You think how many of those engines that are out there, not only in race cars but in street cars too.
We have a plethora of driving talent to talk about. A galaxy of stars from Formula One World Rally Championship with Kalle Rovanperä here for the first time. But it is not just motorsport stars that we have here. Nick Damon is down at Razzoon More Than Racing. We know that they're going to have to go to race control at the end of Q3. And there, Nick, it's not very often that you're standing next to someone who's even more famous than you. with Kumar, obviously incredibly well known on the Indian subcontinent and a major Bollywood star. But tell us, how have you started your motorsport career? You found yourself here at the Dubai 24 Hours. Tell us about your racing career.
I started very early. I was 18 when I started racing motorcycles back home in India, and then I got busy with work. So, but I did race motorcycles until I was 21, and then pursued it till 93, I guess. And then I got busy. I got into the film industry. And in 2002, I was 32. I was 32 years old when I decided to get back to motor racing, but not motorcycles, in four-wheelers. So my journey began. So I came back to motorsports in the year 2002, racing the national championships back home in India. In 2003, I went on to do the Formula BMW Asia Championship. I did the whole season in 2003. I did complete it. In 2004, I participated in the British Formula 3 in the scholarship class, though. Unfortunately, I couldn't complete the whole season due to work commitments. It was like balancing two boats at the same time. So then I waited for some time, and then in 2010, I was fortunate enough in getting an opportunity to race in the European Formula 2 season. But then again, I could only do a few races because of my film commitments. But I did get to race in some fantastic circuits like Monza, Silverstone, and Marrakech.
What's the situation? You're running this dual career. Do you have do you write it into your contracts with the films that you are allowed to race, or do the production companies say no, you can't race?
No, I don't need to be told what to do, what not to do. So for now, as I plan to pursue motorsports, not just as a driver, as a team owner as well. Until the racing season is on, I wouldn't be signing firms, and probably between October until March, before the racing season commences, I will probably do firms. I'll act in firms so that no one is worried, and I can be full throttle. I can be on full throttle when I race.
So you're here at the Dubai 24 Hour. What was it that caught your eye about this particular event to start your year's racing?
If you look at all the formats that I have been racing, and they have been sprint races, you know, and this is more like a team event where it's one car, multiple drivers. So it is not just about you. It's about the car, the equipment, saving the equipment for your co-drivers, you know. So pure team sport. So that's, and this is something I wanted to experience firsthand. And I'm fortunate enough that I could form my own team, Ajit Kumar Racing.
Ajit, thank you very much. Best of luck, and obviously next time you get in the car, well, it'll be night practice in the race.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And
nice
we have a new partner for all of the Michelin 24-hour series races in 2025. Hello to IBC Tamil Sports, who will be syndicating the races to a huge audience. Ajit is massive in terms of his profile in the Indian movie industry as an actor and a producer. Actually has a production company as well. So I think when he was saying I don't have to be told what to do, I think there's not very many people who do tell him what to do. If you think of Paul Newman and of Steve McQueen and Patrick Dempsey and people of that level, Peter, that's what we're talking about with Ajit. He's box office gold, and he is movie royalty effectively.
Definitely. And I think you look at people in any profession, when people really reach the top of the profession, there is something in their makeup, in their way they approach things that can be applied to another skill. And that's clearly what, I mean, Ajit is very experienced in racing. You know, he's raced in F2 before, and he gave us a lot of examples there of previous single-seater racing he's done. But he's going to be doing double duty this weekend. He's competing in his own car, the Ajit Kumar Racing by BKR, Baz Kooten Racing, who know the series inside and out. That's a great pair up there. He'll be racing with Mathieu Detry, Fabien Dufour and Cameron McLeod in that. But he's also in the Razzoon More Than Racing GT4 Club Sport. So he'll actually be doing a bit of a Ben Keating. He'll be switching in between two cars in different classes. But then he's not the only driver to be driving across two different cars. Darren Leung is actually racing in two different cars in the same class.
Yeah.
Which I can't think I've ever seen that before, actually, apart from maybe factory drivers, maybe like a Jackie X at Le Mans gets taken out of one car. That has happened, but not necessarily in that way. So yeah, very interesting indeed, and great to have Ajit here, and hope he enjoys his weekends at racing.
And if you're listening at the moment on RS1 to our early coverage, or maybe watching on the live free video stream, and you've got friends that can get IBC Tamil Sports, then please tell them to tune in over the next couple of days. Hello to all the Shakedown collective as well, who are watching and listening out in Australia. I mean, a fairly brisk discussion about the state of GT3 racing on the chat board there. Can't wait to be with you for the Maguire's Bathurst 12 hours in a couple of weekends' time, for 3 weekends' time, in fact, after this one. And you mentioned Jackie X. Jackie X is going to be at Bathurst as an ambassador for Genesis, and taking, I think it's the 10th now iteration of the Genesis Magma project, which brings what might be virtual racing cars, look like virtual racing cars, to life. And they've learned an awful lot about this down through the years, and it's certainly been informing what they're doing for their hypercar program. Oh, another big slide by the Rosa as it came out of the final corner, and once again it's on a right-hander with that left-hand side rear tyre loading up there. Not quite as quick this time around for Harry Newey.
It was, yeah, it was best for that car in this qualifying session. Harrison Newey, 201.714. He's just improved by 0.05 of a second. Nikita Mazepin's best was a 201.7. So they're very, very evenly matched in terms of their pace. So it shows that the platform is solid. You put a couple of pro drivers in it, and the pace is there.
However, we've got a 2-minute flat time by Brendan Leach. He's just pitted the Leipzig Motorsport Lamborghini Super Trofeo, and that actually, along with the 2:03.0 that his teammate put in earlier on, they've now got the fastest average time. Courtesy of that stunning lap then, at 2 minutes, 0.012. It is Team CMR in the Ginetta in the pits in third position with a 2:03.8 and a 2:02.9. That gives them a 2:03.3 average. And we will add the third qualifying driver's time, best time onto that, average it out, and that will set the grid for GTX, GT4, TCE in this run. By far the biggest individual class. Actually, do you know what? It's a toss-up. We've got over 30 GT3 cars split between GT3, GT3 and GT3 Pro-Am. And we've got a huge amount of Porsche 992 Carrera Cup cars as well, with the venerable flat 6 4-litre still being pressed into service. Not sure how much longer that will be available to us as a road car. Just a point to make about that before those cars come out. We've had a couple of people again at RSL_studio if you want to get in touch with us here. And the tyre situation with the Cup cars, that is not a Michelin tyre that is normally used on a Cup car that we'll be using this weekend. This is a genuine endurance tyre, and the teams seem to be very, very happy that with the early runnings of these cars. Let's go to Joe Bradley, who is in the pit lane, taking over from Nick Damon. They're just swapping and changing. The best of the GT4 cars is the Team CMR Ginetta. And Freddie Tomlinson has just brought that car in the pit lane after putting in a 2 minutes 8.984, by far the fastest lap in that category, and with an average of 2:10.1, that car is the fastest GT4 2/3 of the way through qualifying. Joe?
You'll notice the pattern of the way Nick and I are doing this. I'm only interviewing the fastest drivers in each session. I like to surround myself by success. Now, Freddie Tomlinson here has just stepped out the number 495 Ginetta. Ginetta at the top of the GT4 screens. Freddie, all going to plan?
Yeah, at the minute it's all going to plan. Obviously, Dad did a great job in the first session, and I did a good job in my second session. And yeah, it's going really well. And now handing over to Nico in the last session, who'll hopefully be able to keep the momentum going.
There's got to be an element of confidence when your teammate's Nico Prost, who you're now plugging in.
Yeah, obviously it's nice having Nico in the team. He's a really good guy, and he's got loads of experience in Formula E and lots of different championships. So it's great. He's a great guy to learn from.
I was about to ask, I happened to be watching a conversation with you guys over lunch, and Nico was gesticulating with his hands as drivers do. What kind of stuff are you learning from a driver like that?
Just all sorts of things from setup. You know, he's got lots of experience in different cars, so he's great with the setup and everything. I mean, there's not one thing in particular. You're just absorbing information all the time like a sponge, so it's just great to learn from.
And I think, Freddie, that'll continue. I mean, all right, we're getting excited about who's the fastest over a lap in qualifying, but tomorrow when we start thinking about this, and I would imagine learning a lot about as a driver.
Yeah, I mean, it's tricky in a 24-hour race because it's a lot more about consistency rather than just raw pace. So it's like on an endurance side of things, how to like keep on going with like the break points and things like that. It's just like those like reminders in your head basically. And yeah, it's a different kettle of fish in a 24-hour race. I mean, I did a stint last year with not much sleep, and it's very tricky. So you've just got to keep going and keep pushing, and then see where you end up.
And you've got, and of course, getting enough sleep is vitally important. If that's what you pick up, I'm all for that. Thanks, Freddie. The checkered flag's out for the second segment. So currently going into the third and final in all-important session, Nico Prost. Good luck to you guys. Thank you.
Well, that's a pretty decent driver to be able to plug in for the third. And they're, at the moment, on average, are just over a second ahead of WS Racing's BMW. George King has just got out of that car. AGMC Racing by Simpson Motorsports BMW next up. Another second or so further back. Tudarachi in that car. In TCE, the two Asbest Racing related cars. There's a slightly newer Cupra TCR and a quite old Seat TCR as well. They're first and second, the 1 and 1 and 1 and 2, and we've still not seen the SRS team. So
they're actually slightly different. One, the 101 is actually a Seat Leon Cup racer, the one make car.
Yes, correct.
And then the Cupras are a
TCR.
genuine TCR with a DSG gearbox.
The Leon is the just an update on the Porsche from SRS team Zorg Rennsport. Are they keeping their powder dry, Nick, or are we not going to see that car?
Powder might be dry. The blue roll's not dry though. There is now. You know how we joke about with Caymans and Boxers, we can't find the engine. I've got two of them at the back of the garage. Obviously, it doesn't take a genius to work out that during some of the practices, one of the engines has gone bang, and there is now another complete engine and gearbox about to be installed. So I assume that their battle is to get this ready for night practice, John. But they have the old engine and the new engine. They're just taking off the engine mounts from the old engine, put it on the new engine, and they're going to kind of put the whole thing up and underneath. And this obviously shows you why you can't see a Boxster engine, because you can't see it from above. You know, you see it from below or on the floor. But yeah, obviously a problem during one of the many practice sessions. Won't be qualifying, but they'll be, it won't affect them too much. Perhaps a row back further than they should be. But there's no indication whatsoever this is going to be a stopper from this car taking part in the race.
Excellent stuff, Nick Damon on the spot as ever, as we've completed the second of 3 15-minute sessions for the Michelin 24 Hours of Dubai. First round of the new 2025 season. First international coverage of the 25 season as well on the Radio Show Limited of audio and visual channels. We're back with the Nürburgring Championship and the Nürburgring 24 in 2025 as well. And just as you're tuning in and sort of coming out of your slight winter slumber of lack of motorsport news, some news breaking here, and thanks to a number of outlets, that we will have Toyota back in the NLS and the Nürburgring 24 with a Toyota GR Yaris, which is going to be running with this, I think, with this clever semi-automatic gearbox that they've got on that. And the driver lineup is a who's who. It's Akio Toyoda, Maurizio that is, as he's well known, Daisuke Toyoda, Kazuya Oshima, and Hiroaki Ishiura driving that car. So we'll be talking about that later on in the year. For now, we are coming up to the third and deciding 15 minutes of this qualifying session. Now, if you are just joining us, we've sort of timed it right. We've had a bit of action. We've had one red flag. How does it all work? Well, it's quite simply 3 sessions that are 15 minutes each. If you've got more than 3 drivers or more, you have to have a different driver in it. During the sessions, you can't swap drivers. Q1 has to be with an AM driver, and we know a team that hasn't done that. No refueling allowed during or between the sessions, and we know a different team who's done that. Tyre change not allowed during or between the sessions unless it is flat or punctured, and that was the remit that was given to the Rossa car, which, by the way, did slip back to the top of the times by a scant 0.006 of a second, 7 of a second, excuse me, during those runs at the end, those laps at the end. So it's Graf Racing's Rossa from Leipert's Lamborghini, 797 from 710. Team CMR's Ginetta is third in GTX, a couple of seconds further back on average. Jake Camilleri is jumping into the 111 Racing IRC in GTX in 4th position. And the Vortex V8 has AM driver Solène Amarouche behind the wheel of that car. And Solène's story of her helmet design is one of the features in the very impressive printed edition of the 24 Hours Michelin 24 Hours of Dubai program. It is available online. as well, if you'd like. In the other classes, GT4s, you've heard, is the 495 Ginetta that leads from the WS Racing BMW. They've plugged Jerome Bleekemolen in. He is, I think, what you would call a plug-and-play performance enhancer. Ramez Azam, excuse me, Ramez, in the BMW AGMC by Simpson is third. So 438, fourth in GT4. Zorg Rennsport's Porsche that is making the right noises and going around nicely. So that's Harley Houghton, who was the youngest driver ever to compete in the Nürburgring 24-hour race. Started his races karting, karting experience. Joe and Nick know him well. Marat Gulbadulin for Continental TTR Racing in the Toyota GT4. They are fifth, and sixth is the Razoo Northern Racing Porsche of Leo Pichler in GT4. Asbest still first and second. Cupra from the old Seat Leon single make car. 101 from 102 from 101. Hendrik Sandel and Pla Olsen being selected to do the last stints, and will not see that SRS Zorg Rennsport in qualifying. Where's your money then? If you have to put money on Rosser and Graf Racing, Lamborghini, Leopard Motorsport. Don Yount has got into the Leopard car. Can't see yet who got it, because Harrison knew he's just done his stint, so it won't be Harrison. See that as it comes around next time around. Where's your money? Which one of these two cars at the end of this session, if no penalties are applied?
Well, I think on average time, I would think it's going to be the Rossa LMGT. I would suspect it will be Roman Rusinov, who will get on board that car. He's the kind of leader of he's the driving force behind this Rossa LMGT project, and really strong pace from Nikita Mazepin, a 201.7
as well.
Yeah, a 201.3 for Harrison Newey. That 410's quicker on ever so slightly older tyres, but they look pretty good. But the best outright lap we've seen so far was Brendan Leach, the impressive Antipodean, in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo car for Leipert Motorsport with a 2 flat 0.012, and Don Yount actually is really starting to get up to a good pace at the moment in that car. So interestingly, we saw in the previous era of the 24H series with a different tyre supplier, you'd get quite a quick peak, and then it would tail off. But it seems like the performance seems to be staying in pretty well for qualifying, which the teams, I'm sure, will be pleased about.
All the tyre manufacturers nowadays talk about rapid warm-up. And all the tyre manufacturers are so good now that you can actually give false confidence to drivers. And you do still have to remind drivers that you can't hammer the curbs for the first lap and a half, 2 laps, even in qualifying. You've got to bring them in. And we see this in IMSA a lot, actually. Some teams have different strategies of how to do this, but this Michelin Pilot Sport GT tyre, well, Michelin have got a lot of data on this from running in IMSA and over a wide variety of cars, which is what you've got here as well, including the front-wheel drive TCR cars that we have in the Michelin Pilot Challenge. And by the way, if we're talking about this hectic month of racing, 2 Michelin 24-hour series races to kick things off here at Dubai, then Abu Dhabi Yas Marina next week, the little sprint 6 hours. Phil Anson, myself, Di Binks and Bruce Jones on duty for that one. And then it's a quick shuffle to Florida and to the Rolex Daytona 24 hours is the first round of the IMSA Championships, World Sports Cars, WeatherTech Sports Car Championship and Michelin Pilot. And we've got, and I am delighted to say that we kick off the year with Mazda MX-5, the Whelen Mazda MX-5 Cup as well, running on Michelin's as well. That is absolutely tremendous. That is in a couple of weekends' time. And then round to the other side of the world for the Maguire's 12 hours at Bathurst. But first, we have got to get this one out of the way, and it's going to be an absolute cracker. We've talked about the drivers that are here from various different parts of motorsport disciplines, and Harrison Newey's still listed at the side of that car. 2:02.9 last time around for the Graf Racing Rosser 797, the blue and white car, white and blue actually. Don Yount with a 2:04.6. Hugo Mojica 2:03.9, 2:04.2 for Jake Camilleri in the 111 IRC, 111 Racing, that's the team name, IRC, and guess what, it is number 111 as well. And therefore the average times sees by about half a second now, Peter, that Rosser ahead of the Lamborghini.
At the moment, yes, as things stand, but if Harrison Newey has stayed in the car, then that is against the rules as well. So perhaps they're maybe just writing this qualifying session off and keeping their top drivers in the car and trying to get that data. I mean, as Nikita Mazepin told us, it's only the 4th day the car's ever been on track, which is remarkable.
So let's go and do it 24 hours.
Let's go and do it. Why not?
Yeah,
Let's go for it. But I'm looking at GT4. Nico Prost has just set the best lap time of anybody throughout all 3 sessions, a 2:08.645. So he's absolutely flying in the Team CMR Ginetta, which is actually the Ginetta, well, it's the delayed Ginetta Christmas party, because the owner of the company, Lawrence Thomason, here with his son Freddie, Michael Simpson, who's the Ginetta head of motorsport, and Nico Prost gets an honourable invite, and he's certainly justifying that invite at the moment. And I'm with Joe. I was sitting at the same table at lunch, and you think, is that Alan Prost? Oh no, it's Nico Prost sitting over there. They are, yes, there's no denying that there's certainly a likeness.
As Nico has got older, he's sort of grown into his face, hasn't he? If that makes sense. He always looked like his dad across the eyes. I like Nico, good lad. Loves his sports cars as well.
He's got a great record in sports cars. Winner of the GTX class last year. So they are the defending champions in well, actually they're in a different class. They're in GT4. They were GTX last year. He's won French GT, won the Privateer Championship in LMP1 with Rebellion back in 2014, 10 years ago. 2-time winner at Petit Le Mans as well.
Was that a Judd? That would have been a Judd engine, wasn't it? Or were they running the Toyota then?
Ooh.
I should know that.
Pass.
Wait 30 seconds and you hope you're listening to us and you've not got some Blackpool Football Club podcast on a Friday. No, he says. We'll hear from Johnny Palmer and Phil Anson at the end of this session, which still has 6 minutes remaining. In the other classes then, that Ginetta then in the pits for Nico Prost, no need to go any quicker. And they are soundly ahead at the moment of Jerome Blakemolen. He's just put in a 2:10.0. But even Jerome, that's a couple of seconds, a second and a half away from Nico's time. They're separated by just over a second on average. AGMC third for BMW in the 4:38. Harley Houghton, SRS Team Ren Sport Porsche in 4th. And another Porsche in 5th. Razoo Northern Racing be ahead of that Toyota TTR racing car. And TCE, just the two as best racing cars. They're both in TCX, but there's I think it's fair to say, a gulf of pace and technology in the newer version of the Cupra with the DSG box. Now that is a box that it is an automatic box. It works automatically or semi-automatically. Actually, you can stick it in drive. It would do that, but it has got gear cogs in it, and that's has a double clutch pre-selector, basically. Very clever piece of kit in that car, and it is a TCR designed car, whereas the Seat Leon, Peter, is built to purpose, but the purpose was single make racing, so it is by no means as sophisticated a car, and I actually think that Leon might have a stick shift gearbox.
Pass.
I'm going to have to look at that. I'll send one of the boys.
I'd be surprised if it was an H pattern, but yes, it's definitely built to a criteria, and it's probably kicking on for 15 years old now. So it definitely is. Behind in terms of technology, but it's more about finishing the race in that class, and avoiding time in the pits is going to be the big thing. the Arossa LMGT on track, which now we've got the driver ID correction. It is Roman Rusinov who's driving that car. So they have gone through 3 different drivers. They've gone through Nikita Mazepin, then Harrison Newey, and now Roman Rusinov, the real driving force behind this project. On track, it looks very active. You're so used to seeing GT cars being so flat. It's actually a very expressive car, and into some of the braking zones, you're seeing the driver often locking up an inside rear tyre. So it's just going to take a little bit of dialing in. They have a decent track time to be able to be accessed over the last week or so. But it's there will still be a lot of fine tuning when you look at the development that goes into a modern day race car and how much mileage, how many hours of time it takes. They're doing that right now in front of us. In fact, they're giving us a great glimpse into what it's like to develop a racing car. The styling of it is very much influenced by a Maserati MC12, which is one of Roman Rusinov's favourite cars ever, and I think a lot of people's favourite car ever. And I noticed on the tail fin of the car, it's been sponsored by Joe Macari, a very well-known supercar dealer in London. He's got a Maserati MC12 racing car, which takes historic racing. He also looked after the Count Rossi 917 up until very recently. It's now over down in the south of France. But he was looking after it. It was on the showroom floor there for nearly a year, actually.
That Seat Leon could be as old as 2008.
Yeah.
They ran from 2008 to 2010 in a Euro Series and the Spanish Supercopa Series.
Your team won the championship one year.
Wow, very good, very well. That's very well. I didn't know that. And then they came back in 2017 with more power, quite a lot more power, actually, in that car. And if it is the second one, that could have a DSG gearbox as well, actually.
That would make sense, because it'll have to be a fairly serviceable part. And the thing is, if you put funnily enough, I've just written an article about another competition car. It was actually a rally car that there was a big discussion of putting a DSG, or in this case it was a PDK gearbox, or a full sequential, and the cost differences are enormous. If you use a road-based DSG or PDK or whatever you want to call it, SMG gearbox, the costs are a fraction of what a full race sequential will be, and in a one-make series that's very, very important. Good lap time there from Roman Rusinov, a 201.7, actually 1400ths quicker than Nikita Mazepin's lap, about 4/10ths off Harrison Newey. So for Roman, that's really, really impressive pace there. So I think across that driver lineup, if that car keeps running, they've got a good solid driver lineup and they're putting in really strong times.
Last minute, and let's see if there's any improvements. Well, Roman Rusinov did a 2:01.753 last time around. That is the one. That's third quickest. So he that is second quickest rather in that car. That is quite impressive. 2:01.6, 2:01.7, 2:01.3, 2:01.7. He is not. I mean, he's a very experienced driver. LMP2 driver in his day. Somewhat controversially won the FIA World Endurance Championship when the team car took out his major competition at Fuji. But champion nonetheless, and one of an influx of drivers who have been away and want to come back, and who have been, as the checkered flag comes out on this first full qualifying session. A number of people who've been away and want to come back who are being attracted to sports car and endurance racing. I'm talking about this to a number of people recently about, what good value for money. Racing is not a cheap sport. It is not inexpensive. But in terms of how many dollars, pounds, yen, euros, zlotys, or whatever else you are spending, track time and fun and actual racing that you get in endurance racing, and particularly in a series like the Michelin Creventic 24 Hours, Peter, it's hard to argue against it, isn't it?
in terms of value, I don't think you can beat this championship. And you look at also how much effort Creventic put in to try and maximise the efficiency of their calendar of when the cars are shipped to certain parts of the world. You know, it definitely makes sense to be going to Abu Dhabi next week and trying to spread across that cost of actually shipping the cars usually from Europe over to here in the Middle East and enjoy some warm weather racing. I'm certainly enjoying some warm weather commentating, that's for sure.
So at the end, the timing screen shows the Rossograph racing car, most recently driven by Roman Rusinov, on the top of the piles. However, as our knowledgeable pit team and Peter Mackay rightly pointed out, the driver who went out at the start was not an ARM driver. Basically, it has to be your least, your furthest down in the ladder in terms of their experience. So that car will not be starting on pole position tomorrow afternoon as we come round. That means Leipzig Motorsport and Lamborghini will be, and Nick Damon, with Don Yount just coming back into the pits now, has found Brendan Leach from that beautifully liveried white and blue machine.
Well, Brendan, you are, or will be, when the penalties are applied, the pole sitters in GTX with fantastic Lamborghini. More importantly, I think you put up the individual fastest times. There's some real pace in this car.
Yeah, it's an awesome car. Leipzig have done an amazing job preparing it for the weekend, and Gerhard and Don also did really good laps, and just been building for the big 24 coming up tomorrow. So we're really excited, and we think we've got some good pace, and yeah, obviously we've got to bring the thing home in one piece, which is a long time out there.
I mean, it's an interesting challenge, isn't it? Because if you look at the graph car, it's got some speed. It's obviously got a number of well-known drivers. You've got more of a mixed talent lineup. How are you going to run your own race, or very much look at what they're doing?
No, I think we just have to focus on our own race. We're a little bit limited, obviously, with driving. So pros are only allowed to do 50% of the race distance, if I remember correctly. I need to scrub up on the rules for tomorrow for that one. But
get that one right.
Yeah. So no, I think that we just run our own race, stay out of trouble, and I think just bring the thing to the line, and we'll see where we end up.
I mean, interesting about the Lamborghini is always really, really quick. I mean, but it has suffered in the past, certainly from tyre issues. Do you feel being on the Michelin tyre is going to be better for the Lamborghini? Yeah,
I think so. I think it complements the car a little bit more. It's a fantastic tyre, and had some experience on it already in the GT3 car in the past, or something similar, should I say. So it's been great. It's a lot of fun to drive, and like I said, it really complements the car, and it just allows you to send the thing a little bit harder.
Brendan, well done. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Pole position in GT4 goes to Team CMR in the 495 Jeanette, and TCE Asbest Racing held on to that, the 102 from the 101. It did get closed in, actually, to the end, because Pla Olsen actually did a really good third stint in that car. On average, it was about a second. In fact, it was pretty much exactly a second. 2:18 flat to 2:19 flat. That brings us to the end of the first part of qualifying. Qualifying is by no means over, because we have the Porsche 992 Cup class and, of course, the GT3s to come. But given that it is 11:30 in the UK, coming up to lunchtime, we thought you might want to take a short break before we come back with some more action. Actually, we've got Renault Clio action coming here for their qualifying session. So a little bit of sunshine and a little bit of summer being brought into your homes, either homes or cars, I suppose, if you're travelling around at the moment, listening on RS1, part of the Radio Show Limited network of audio and video channels. Good to have your company. Don't go too far away. The countdown clock is starting already. We've got half an hour before we are back at the Dubai Autodrome for more qualifying for the opening of the 2025 International Endurance Season. It is the Michelin 24 Hours of Dubai. Set your alarms. We're just under 29 minutes before GT3 and 992 qualifying comes along. We have a little bit of a 5-minute build-up, so that is 5 minutes to 5 minutes to 4 local time. That'll be 5 minutes to midday back in the UK, and 5 minutes to 1 if you're in Central Europe. The rest of the time differences you will have to do yourself. From Peter Mackay, from me, John Hindhaugh, Nick and Joe will be back in the pit lane, but the next voice you'll hear will be Johnny Palmer in about 25 minutes time. Bye for now.